Okay, we're at Wolf Creek. As you can see, I've dressed down, only because that means I don't have any apparel bonus. I'm using a Bridgestone ultra slow meter ball, which has an extra distance of only 1, so it should be comparable with most balls in use. So, first hole, it's a par 5, it's an outside birdie chance. First objective is just to get the ball onto the green, onto the fairway.
That's a huge drive.
Now, if you've got a decent wind, you can reach the green in 2. If you're going for the green, or when you go for the green from any distance, add 5 yards to your shot, because the pin, when it's where it is on a slight slope, so you can get away with having extra yards on it. I'm probably not even going to reach the green with this. So if you get in this position, you've got to just try and get it as close as you can, in the hope that you're going to make your birdie. So for me, this is a full shot using my 64-degree wedge, and my calculation is always +6 and about 25% backspin. So +6 is 35. We're actually uphill and very slightly against the wind, so I'm going to go 37 just to make sure it gets up there. Okay, and lovely 13 greens. So shots like this, I'll put a little bit of misting on it just to keep it straight. So hole 2, sometimes you get a good wind. That's not a bad wind. You need to know the carry of your driver. So mine is about 285. So with that wind, I'm going to get a little bit of extra. That carry there is probably about 290, but I should be all right with the extra wind. That might not be very good. I tugged it a bit. I think we're going to get away with it.
That's a huge drive.
Okay, so unusual pin position, or not the usual pin position. 44, wind behind, so on a short distance with this club, when it's between 45 and 50, my +6 doesn't normally apply. I normally go down to maybe only +4. Got a wind behind, but we are uphill, so I'm going to go +4. I'm going to go 48 with the backspin. So again, because I've got the slope here, I'm going to hit it a little bit harder than I would normally to make sure it gets there, but I'm going to offset it with a missed ding, an early ding, to try to keep it straight. that certainly keeps it a little bit straighter. It means you don't have to aim quite as far to the side of the hole as you would if you weren't missing the ding. This is a horrible hole. Still haven't worked it out. They say on 13 greens, some getting up here, the ball will roll back. But yeah, I haven't perfected that yet. Over this distance, probably 3.5 grid squares. So normally it would be 220. The 67 foot uphill would normally mean adding 20 to that, so 240. I always think it plays shorter than it does, so we're going to go about 235 and just see what happens. Particularly on 13 greens, anything could happen, particularly if you miss the ding like that. Okay, so when you're in trouble, the only thing you can do is try and get it close and save your par. So again, it's a good distance for me with a full shot. It's 20 plus my 6. So normally you might take one off for that wind, but I happen to know that everything up the hill, so if you're anywhere below the pin, you need to add at least 1, if not 2 yards onto your shot. So with the wind, I'm going to stick with 26 on a full shot. And we're going to hope that we get a little bit close. And that's probably
On the dance
as close
floor.
as we could get without sinking it. So this hole, a par is good. You can just try and get it on the green and 2-putt. So this is another birdie opportunity. Again, first shot, just try to get it up. Now again, there's no need to take a risk over here. You certainly can't go for the green at that distance, I don't think. But there's no point risking this sand. You've got all this room here, so keep it well left.
That's in the garden
And
spot.
then you've got a wedge shot under 100 yards into the pin. Now, on this shot, this slopes down to the pin quite sharply. So your ideal landing point is somewhere in here. That's where you want to land the ball, because it will automatically roll back to the pin. So I'm probably a little bit further right than I would normally be, but that's because I know that this slope is there. So this would normally be an 80-yard shot plus 5. I've got the wind behind me, so I'm going to go 84, take account of the wind, and hopefully land it on that spot and see it trickle towards the hole. If anything, this is going to go too long. No, there you go, rolls back down towards the hole. It is a little bit long. Could have done with perhaps 83 there, but hey, it gives me a birdie opportunity. Tricky one, but so we're uphill. I'm going to miss the ding again, because that should hopefully take some of the break out of it. So 4.8, I would say, well, 5 would be 4.5, that one. So it's probably going to hit it just under 5 and miss the ding so that it pulls it to the right as you look at it. Takes out some of that break. Okay, now this is even with this wind, this is a hole that you should be getting a birdie on, if not an eagle opportunity. Depending on how far your driver goes, the aim point should be somewhere around here. So if you think about this knuckle that comes out here, that's roughly where your aim point should be. You should be able to carry that far, particularly with a wind behind you. So depending where the wind is and whether it's against or not, you're somewhere in here. But that's your rough aiming point. Now I've got wind pushing me to the right. I know that I can get that far. So I can afford to be on it because I know that it's going to get pushed to the right.
Good ball.
Okay, so the calculation on the second shot is the pin is actually normally on the back left, but it's usually about 47 foot up. So again, my calculations on that is to times it by 3. Let's make it easy and say it's 50. So it'd be 150 divided by 10 is 15. So I know I've got to add 15 yards to account for that elevation. So that'll make it 175. We've got the wind against. Now if that wind was completely in my face, I would take half of 16, which is 8, and turn that into a percentage. So we've got 175 is the adjusted distance with the elevation, and then I'm not going to take 8%. I'm going to, because it's not directly in my face, I'm going to go with 6%. So 6% of 175, which roughly speaking is about 11. So I'm going to add 11 to 175. 186 is what I think we're looking at. I always put backspin on it. I don't change that backspin. It's on there every time because no point varying your backspin one shot differently to another. Know what it's going to achieve with the backspin. So we're looking at 186, hopefully. At least we've got a boom boom. So, yeah, that's the result I'll take every time. Okay, very slightly braking. So I put it on the edge. It's going to turn, so I will again play a slight misting. 3.5. Hit it early. Hold it up. And in the hole. Okay, this hole, again, if you're confident with the carry of your driver, you can usually, if the wind's not against, you can usually clear this creek. Now that's right on the margin for me with my club, because that's going to be about 270, but I think I can probably do it. I may end up in the rough, but you've got to know the carry of your of your driver, and the calculation I do there is it's 334. It's 110 feet down. So my calculation for elevation, again, to repeat, for downhill like that, it's 4 times 110. So that's 440. Divided by 10 gives you 44. So it's 44 foot. So I take, sorry, it's 44. You take off the 334. So it's 290 to where I am there. The wind's against. My carry normally would be 285. So I may struggle here, but we're going to give it a go. Yeah, that's about where I thought it would be. So that's fine. I think it's probably only 25% rough there. So this one you've got to make sure you take account of the elevation. So that would be 3 times 20 is 60, divided by 10 is 6. So you've got to add at least 6 onto that. Got a wind slightly against, so you're already at 97. The wind's probably going to take it up to 100 because I'm going to have some backspin on this. So assuming the wind works, in fact I'm going to make it just under 100. I'd rather be below the hole than above the hole. Okay, 100 would have been good, but I'm below the hole. I've got an uphill putt, so a chance of a birdie. So again, my style on this would be to miss the ding, to push it right, going against the grain of those dots. It's a more difficult one to judge. If I wasn't going to ding it, I'd be putting the cursor somewhere over here. But by dinging it, I put by misdinging it, put the cursor a little bit closer, less margin for error. So 9 on 13 greens for me would normally be about 8. 0.2, so add the 0.2. I'm going to go 8.5, and as I say, I'm going to miss the ding to try to take some of that break out of it. The missed ding putting is something that you've really got to practice. I wouldn't recommend that you leap into a competition doing it. At some point in between big competitions, when you've got a few practice rounds, try the missed ding, but it definitely needs a lot of practice. Because you've got to get confident with it. You've got to get confident of knowing, how far to miss the ding. You can't just miss it at any rate. So this one, I would always recommend taking if the wind's with you, no more than a 3-iron. Definitely no more than a 3-iron if the wind's behind. Because anywhere, again, you don't have to get down here, anywhere up here. But if you hit it too hard and it catches one of these downslopes, you'll end up in the water. So, anywhere up here is going to leave you less than 100 yards. So we're going to go what I think is about 230 with my 3-wood. We'll go a little bit further because we've got the wind against. So this is going to get down, probably not down to the bottom, but hopefully past the first ridge. Oh, not even
That's in the garden spot.
The pin's in a tough position here, so actually being further away is not too bad. So we've got 109, 3 foot up. Let's say it's 110. So that wind against is almost directly in my face. So let's suppose it's 12. I half that, which gives me 6. So the percentage to add to this is 6%. So it's 110. So it would be about 6. But this is one of those occasions where I know that wind is going to add 10. Now, don't ask me how I know. Well, do ask me how I know it. I know it through experience. I know that that's going to require an extra 10 yards on this shot. So we've got 110. So we're going to go 110 plus 10 is 120. And if the pin's up where it is, you are better going long than short because it's right on the edge of a downslope. So I wouldn't put too much spin on a shot into the hole in this position. That's probably one of the better positions to be in. The only thing here, excuse me, is that you don't want to be hitting this too hard, otherwise it's going to roll all the way down there. And on 13 greens, this is not a nice putt. So if anything, I shall probably be leaving this short. Okay, so we've got 9. 9 for me on 13 greens is 8. Take off the 2, would normally be 6. But because of where we are, I think I'm only going to go 5. And if I end up taking a par, then so be it. See how close that was to, I mean, that must just been millimetres away from running away. So remember, if you're up there, play it short. Probably I should have taken it, made it only under 5. At least I would have, definitely got the par, but wouldn't have risked it rolling away and dropping a shot. Hopefully the pin won't be here when we play in the Super League. It'll be in its normal position, down on the green on the left. This is a hole I hate, and I really can't give you a lot of guidance on it because I haven't figured it out. It's like the other par 3. It's a horrendous hole. I've probably lost more balls on this hole than any other hole I can think of. So the normal calculation would be 248. The 73 foot downhill, I would times that by 4. So let's suppose that gives us 28. So it should be 220. But 220 can if the wind's behind, you've really got to be careful. So if anything, because it's 220, because the wind's against, I'm going to go with 225, and I'm going to make sure that I'm right over here so that I don't end up in the water over here. And if I'm below the hole on the green, then I'm happy on this hole. Really is a hole where a par is good and a birdie is a bonus. You can see already I slightly missed that ding, how far left I'd aimed and where that ball's gone to the right. It really is a hole that I don't like because it doesn't really play consistent. Because we're uphill and I'm on the fringe, I'm going to pitch this because I can guarantee that I'll get close. With a putt, I might struggle, although it's fairly straight, but I know what I'm doing with a pitch. So my 64 wedge is 8 yards into a wind uphill, so I'm going to go 9 with the full backspin should stop it right next to the hole. So I'm going to walk away with a par, and to be honest, I'm happy to be doing that on this hole. And this is another hole that can be tricky. It should be a birdie hole, but the elevation for the second shot I always find quite difficult to calculate. The pin's also in an unusual position again, in that it's right up the back. Normally it's a bit closer to the front than it is there. So, but we'll work with it. If it's up the back, it sits on a second tier, and you really need to make so there's a tier comes down here, and the pin's normally there. Another tier here. So if it's up here, you really want to make sure that you get onto that tier. So a little bit longer is sometimes good. So it's 100. Well, it's 99. It's 99, 26 uphill. So 26, so I would times that by 3. So let's say that's 75, 78. So divide by 10 is 7.8. So for the elevation, I need to be looking to add 8. Now again, I know that the elevation on this one is a little bit difficult. It's not your normal calculation. So rather than 108, I'm going to hit it 110. Not least because I want to make sure I get it up onto that second tier. So we're going to go 110. Got the wind very slightly against, but won't worry too much about that. 110. This may come up short. Certainly haven't got a boom boom, so maybe it'll be long. Yeah, well, as I say, 108 might have done it, but I'd rather be slightly long than short and rolling back down this slope here. You don't want to be landing here because you'll be right back down there. Okay. So this is quite a tricky putt because 3.6 is quite a long slope. The dots are not that quick. So again, I'm going to play it. If I was playing it in the expectation of hitting the ding, I'd be over here somewhere. But I'm going to play it a bit closer, and I'm going to try to offset some of that slope by missing the ding. So 7.5, that would normally be for me probably 6. Take off the 3. So it's going to be 3 yards. Now, when you hit a short putt of about 3 yards on a slope like this, actually the break is going to be even bigger than you think. So I'm going to go 3. I'm going to go right out there. I'm going to miss the ding, and there we have it. And you see how the break on that was less than you might have expected, but that's because I missed the ding. Okay, I'm just going to pause and then restart this because in terms of uploading it, I think doing 9 holes at a time is easier to upload.